All right. Well, I have with me Bruce Robinson. And okay, you class of 70, that name may ring a bell. Bruce Robinson,
Me too.
danger, danger. No, that's Will Robinson. David Robinson. No, he's basketball. No, it's Bruce from the class of
1972.
72. Well, I think you just popped up on Facebook recently, and I thought, Bruce Robinson, that name sounds familiar. And I called you up and said, yeah, we played football together. And I was class of 72. And I thought, I almost hung up on you because, hey, this is just the greatest class of 1970 I'm interviewing. But then I thought, come on, um, maybe there'd be a good perspective from the younger generation. And we got to talking, and Bruce has had a great story to tell. So let's go back. When did you show up in La Jolla?
Script Hospital in April of '54, and lived there my entire life. My brothers were born in Minnesota. My dad was from Minnesota and ended up out in San Diego because of World War II. And then the Korean conflict, he was out back again. And my mom used to do her laundry down across from where the Panikin is now on Girard and Pearl, and would look up at this hill, and there were some houses being built or whatever. So anyway, she said, I'd like to live up there. So they eventually bought this house for $19,500 in 1952, 2 years before I was born. And anyway, that's where I grew up.
Well,
Kind of on
very
the hill above the elementary school. There are three hills there. There's the one with La Jolla Country Club, then there's our hill, and then there's the other hill that goes up to Pepita Way and that way, where Bowden used to live over in that area.
a true native. Not many of us can claim that.
I don't know how many. I bet you a pretty sizable percentage. I would think of our era. Maybe not so much today. I'm just guessing.
Well, what grade schools did you go to? How'd you work your way to high
Yeah, I
school?
went to La Jolla Elementary. So first day elementary school, my mom walked me down the hillside, and you cross the road that goes up to which is high, that goes up to the country club, and you're at school. So that was the first day. I cried. And then the second day, she walked me to the manhole halfway down the hill, and then after the third day, I was on my own. So that was it. I was off and running. So it was easy. It was a real well located house. We had a tiny little 1,100 square foot house that I grew up in with two brothers that were that still are 8 and 10 years older than me, and so we could access the village, Maryland's, the high school, La Jolla Elementary, get to the beach. I mean, it was just very centrally located as opposed to being up in the upper Marylands or up by the YMCA or I think where you live.
Yes. Yeah. No, we couldn't walk down to the store and get a pop, so I'm
Right.
jealous.
Yeah, you grew up in a great era and a great town, that's for sure.
Yes, we did. Well, let's see. When we talked, you had played football as a freshman or as a sophomore. You were on the varsity. Is that right?
Yeah, a non-playing 10th grader, which was, always, I always regretted that in a lot of ways because it made me not want to play. And so I didn't play. Gene Wolfchief was the quarterback, of course, and I just sat. And of course, I broke my wrist first day of double session. We didn't have foam. Maybe we had a foam bag. They were new and novel, but there was a sand bag, and I'd never played tackle football. I'd played flag football in junior high and elementary school. And I was always a quarterback, and I put my wrist into a sand bag and it broke. So I missed the 2 weeks of double session. So that hurt me. And then, and being a 10th grader behind a senior quarterback, I probably wasn't going to start, especially, I didn't grow up playing Pop Warner football. I didn't know the nuances of football like I did baseball. I mean, baseball, I grew up in it. My brother played in the big leagues. And I mean, I was always around it, and they were 8 and 10 years older than me. But football was different, but I was a good athlete. And so in retrospect, I should have been on JV playing every game and getting experience and teaching me. Instead, I was just, running some plays. And And spring football came that year when you were a senior. You were about to graduate, and Edwards asked me, he said, "Well, you all ready for spring football?" I don't think so, Coach. I'm not going to play. I'm just going to play baseball. And so he gave me the story of why that was a bad idea, and I said, "Well, that's what I'm going to do." And I hated it. I used to sit in biology in sixth period next to Suzanne Richter, and I would just dread going to football practice because I don't remember this, but this was really old school, and Edwards was old school, and they frowned upon us drinking water, and I mean, we were weak or whatever, and we needed to hydrate, and I hated it. I hated football practice, and so anyway, I didn't play, and of course the team was 1-8 the next 2 years, and they suffered because they didn't have a quality quarterback. So anyway, I still hear it from my friends.
Well, I was going to ask, how did I didn't really look back. So the team didn't do that well. How about in baseball? I know we had some great players in '70, Perry Langford and George Coleman, and oh, forgive me, I'm leaving out a couple of
Well, Steve
the
Higgins, Steve
standouts.
Higgins played. Steve Higgins pitched and played first, and Boucher was a good first baseman when Higgins wasn't playing first, and Coleman was and Bevan were the catchers. But I came in as a ninth grader and played summer legion because Steve Higgins' dad Clark knew that I could play, and so he told Lamont, he goes, "Hey, there's a ninth grader. He needs to come up and play summer ball with the legion team." So I did, and I supplanted Coleman. So Coleman then became a left fielder, and Mike Marquardt was a good third baseman, and
That's right.
uh, Tom Turnowski, shortstop, and Langford was an all-league pitcher. Perry and I were the leading hitters on the team, and Perry was the leading pitcher. So
So how did it go after? How did the team fare in the league the next 2 years after we left?
in baseball,
Yes.
we didn't fare well at all. I think we were either 4-14. I'm going to
Oops, I lost your sound. Bruce, I lost your sound. Still don't have
understood.
it.
How
There we
about
go.
Um,
So you
in
were fourth.
baseball, we were either 3-15 or 4-14 sophomore and senior years. Junior year, we had a good team, and we were 9-6 going into the last week, and dropped 3 games, 2 to Kearney, and so we had a
Oh,
decent team. In fact, the Legion team before that, before the class that came after you, we won the Legion team with the Legion League that summer before their senior year. But we were crappy my senior year too.
oh.
Guys were smoking dope before games. I won't name names, but I mean, I, I was pretty much the only one that would go out there and be out there early, stretch. I took it seriously. From the time I was 12, 13, I was pretty focused on becoming a Major League Baseball player.
Which you did. So that is interesting that you and a couple other good ball players couldn't necessarily turn the tide of the whole team, but you did go on to play pro ball.
I did. I was drafted out of high school by the White Sox in the fourth round, but chose to go to Stanford. Probably would have been drafted higher, except I'd elected to go to Stanford. So I probably would have been drafted where I was out of junior year in college. I was a first round pick by the A's after my junior year in college and signed. And I had taken 64 units, quarter units, my junior year. So I only needed 18 to graduate because I had seen how hard it was for my brother to finish his degree, being 8 years older and playing in the big leagues, and it was difficult for him. So I took as many units as I could, so I could go back after I played that first 3 weeks or first month or whatever of pro ball in '75. I went back and graduated immediately, just in one quarter. So I graduated 2 quarters early, and it also saved me money because I turned pro and I lost my full scholarship because I became pro. So I had to pay for my last quarter, which at the time, now it'd be $25,000 or whatever it would be at. And it's, yeah, probably more than that. 3 quarters, it would probably be $30,000.
Easy.
And it was, when I entered Stanford, it was $4,500 tuition and room and board per year. And when I graduated, it was $6,000 room and board. So it cost me $2,000.
What did you major in?
Economics,
Very
because it's and Stanford's very much geared towards graduate school. So they didn't have an undergraduate business program. So it was about the closest field that incorporated, some business courses, accounting, and things like that. But and you could also get the major fairly quickly because all the econ classes were 5 units. So I only needed 9 courses. Now you need considerably more to get a major. In any field. It was easier in those days, kinder, simpler nation.
Well, Bruce, either you ducked into a music store for this recording, or you're a musical baseball player, it looks like.
I always loved music, especially from the Beatles, Ed Sullivan Show in '64 in February. Um, and I wanted to drum, and I grew up. We had no money. We were like the poorest people in La Jolla.
Mhm.
And even though my dad went to law school, but he wasn't an attorney, and anyway, my mom didn't work. Obviously, no moms work, and so I had to buy a drum. I wanted to buy a drum, and I remember. Do you remember the name Robbie Greaves? He was a year or two older than you. Anyway, he lived on our neighborhood. David Hessel, Doug Rogers. You probably knew Doug. He was a year older than you. He was a pitcher. But anyway, Robbie had a set of drums, and I borrowed a set of drums for a talent show in elementary school in sixth grade. And so I liked that. And then in fifth grade, I was in a group with Jim Now and a couple other guys from my class, and we played 2 songs at the PTA meeting. And so I was the singer. I didn't play an instrument. We didn't have money for music lessons, and my parents were into baseball and school. Okay, and it was baseball and school, pretty much in that order. And so where was I?
You sung two songs for the PTA.
Oh yeah, 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 for the PTA meeting. And so we didn't have a drummer. We had Jim Now's playing keyboard at the time, and Robert McLeod and Tim Fallis, whose dad owned the courtroom. Bill Fallis, right?
Very cool.
Alfonso's courtroom, right? So he was under that. So we sang 2 Herman's Hermits songs. We sang Mrs. Brown, you've got. I sang Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter, and I'm Henry VIII. In it was in fifth grade. In sixth grade, 2 of the guys got booted, and we had a group in sixth and seventh grade, which now we had a drummer from that went to a parochial school, Larry Mulvaney and Jim, and I guess a guy named Joe Fawcett moved in my neighborhood, and he taught me to play pseudo bass. I played we didn't have a bass guitar, so I just played the lower 2 strings and did that. And we played sixth and seventh grade together, and we played the carnival at La Jolla Elementary that they had every year, the Halloween carnival. So we played at the end of the sixth grade building, and I borrowed Bill Jesperson from your class. I borrowed Bill's amplifier. We were in Boy Scouts together. He and Kip Ives and I were in Boy Scouts all in the same troop corps. And so we did that. But then when I got to seventh grade, I mean, I'm baseball, and so I just gave away the music, and yeah, I was very focused. I knew what I was going to do. Nobody was going to tell me I couldn't do it, and I was pretty arrogant, and you know, thinking I could do, which you need to be. You need to be really confident because if you don't think you're good, nobody else is going to think you're good. So anyway,
And you did it. It wasn't built on empty
I
dreams. It
did
was
it. I did it. Yeah, so yeah, I did it. I was fortunate and unfortunate because I also got injured in a car accident. So in
ah, mm.
the
Well, then
curtailing.
did that? Oh, a number of questions. I want to come back to the car accident, but back in at Muirlands, I remember a couple of groups of fellow students. The Side View was a band,
Yes, yeah, yeah, and then
and
there was a class that was a year older than you, and they had
therefore,
well, therefore was your year, and
yes,
that had Richard Brubaker,
yeah.
and it had the blonde gal's brother was the guitarist. She was in my year. It was Richard Brubaker and the God, I can picture all these guys. Scott Heath played bass. He played a Beatle bass. Remember Scott Heath?
Of
And
course.
what is the guy's name? The blonde guy. Oh, Mike Cohen.
Very good. Very
Mike
good.
Cohen played lead guitar. No, yeah, maybe he played guitar and he played bass. And Scott can see the girls in my class. And she lives in Iowa. She became a professor, and her brother was Scott. But anyway, that was there for. There was a class, another one
Scott
a year
Bennett.
older. What's that?
Scott Bennett.
Yes, yes. And Tina Bennett was his younger sister. Good go. Yeah, that's your class. You got to come
And
up with
his
that.
older brother Travis would hang out and kind of manage them. He
Oh,
was he was kind of a, scary dude, but they were very entertaining. I remember just being in the Muirlands gym at a dance,
yeah,
play, our fellow students playing decent music and us
yeah,
rocking out.
yeah.
Therefore, had matching vests, these multicolored velvet vests.
Right, right. And
It
Scott
was
Heath was kind of
beautiful.
the reincarnation, not Heath, Richard Brubaker's kind of reincarnation or the next coming of Mick Jagger, And
Yes.
anyway, I looked up, I thought those guys were great, but the year older than you, those guys were really good. And that was Dirk Angel. Uh, Dirk Angel was a year in between us. His older brother, God dang it, he lived at the bottom of the hill, right at the bottom of the road to drive, right below me. I just walk past his house every day to elementary school. Not Kirk.
What was the name of this group? I don't remember. It's not
They
ringing a
were
bell.
they were I have their picture. I'll send you their picture in email. They the drummer went on to play professionally. His name was Jim Sullivan and still playing. And
Wow.
the guitarist is still playing, Roger Nemore. Nemour, and then where Namor lived 2 houses away on Maryland's Vista Way, where it turned to the right and then went up around the curve. Namor lived before you go down to the little cul-de-sac, and that's where Rogers, his dad was a physician. Uh, God, Danny Rogers' older brother, and he played keyboards, and his mom was kind of the manager. And that's where they would practice in the garage. So Danny was a year younger than me. We go up and listen to him because I was into, the Beatles had come out by now. I was really into music, and they were flipping good. I went with Danny and his parents to the Battle of the Bands at the community concourse, and their name, God damn, what was their name? Mark Angel was the guy at the bottom of the hill. Mark Angel was played lead. He had a Les Paul. Um, Namor played guitar. I think he played bass. Um, the singer, they had a lead singer, kind of like Brubaker, but he was this guy was really good. And then Sullivan was on drums. Who was the lead singer? I don't know. They were very good, and they were
Man, I'm impressed.
a year older than you. And they played a couple after game dances. And even after, yeah, because they had graduated. They were a year older than you guys. So they played one when like we were in 11th grade or 12th grade. They would usually play one after game dance in basketball or football.
Now there was the lead singer had kind of straight black hair. He looked kind of like Mick Jagger. And yeah, they were playing their own music at one of the after game dances. And because they were trying to make their own name. I can't remember who these. There was a band called the Blue and the Gray that played a lot for
Yes,
us.
yes, they were very good. They were older. They
Yeah.
were very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great review of our music. I mean, there's probably a lot more people did other great things, but it's so fun for you to bring us a window of those memories that were very, very dim. Awesome. Now, what about you now? You've put out albums. We could go on Amazon and
You
order
can
your
go on
music.
Amazon or YouTube and find me. Yes, yes. I didn't start writing. I started playing guitar when I was 18. My mom gave me a nylon string guitar, and much to my chagrin, I traded that to a little store in La Jolla on Silverado, a little music store for a
Oh,
banjo. And of course, I
oh,
still kicked myself that I traded away the guitar my mom gave me. But I bought another guitar after freshman year in college when I was playing summer ball. We were back in the Nationals in Wichita, and I bought a Martin guitar, and I still have it hanging right there. And I didn't make the same mistake twice, right? And so I started playing guitar. So I would take a guitar with me everywhere I go on road trips, in college, pro ball for 10 years. I always take guitar, but always played other people, James Taylor, the Beatles. I would just play, strum and pick my own style. And not until 2008 did I write my first song. And I've now written 100 songs and copyrighted 98 of them because two are co-written, and I gave them to the other guy. And so in '08, Pam Weber, who we were in kindergarten together in '59, and we were, first girl I ever kissed was Pam Weber in the green rug in my elementary school, right? Well, she marries a guy from Stanford, 4 years older. He's an orthopedic surgeon. She's a nurse. She raises two gals. Well, we end up getting married. We dated. She was married for 30 years. I was married for 17. She contacted me about the La Jolla High 80th reunion, and we ended up dating for 10 years and then getting married and still good friends, but I want to be in Idaho and she wants to be in San Diego. And just we broke up 6 times over it. But she'd hear me play, and she'd play piano and I'd play guitar, and we'd play together and have a great time. And I'd always, make up words on the fly. And I called it gobbledygook. And she goes, "Why don't you write a song?" I don't want to write a song. And so anyway, doing it again. And so finally, in October, on my son's birthday, October 14th, 2008, I wrote my first song. It was a jazz song. And then I wrote two the next year and three the next year. And then by this time, I'd started playing out in clubs and stuff, doing that. And I had an opportunity to go play at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a 90-minute solo gig. And the guy called me. I'd met him at the Baseball Hall of Fame, and then he moved over to the Rock Hall of Fame, was vice president of development, raising money, and with the promise that he'd become the president. Well, he was still development there at the Rock, and he called me and said, "Hey, what do you think about coming out to Cleveland, playing a gig, on stage at the hall?" I go, "Are you kidding me? Pinch me." Of course I'll do that. So Pam and I flew out, and I had done a CD, but it had been really rough. It wasn't fully produced. It was just me playing harmonica, which I can play, but I'm not pro. And me singing and picking, and I didn't know what a click track was, which is the little beat tempo that you have in your earphones to keep tempo. And so I was really inexperienced. So it was, and there was no percussion on it. And so I'd done this, and I didn't want to let anybody have this. I gave way too many away because it wasn't very good. And so I play in the Rock Hall of Fame. I don't have anything to sell. And people are wondering, "Hey, do you have a CD?" I go, "Yeah, no." And so anyway, then I took all those songs plus a few others and did my first CD fully produced in San Diego in a studio. And I gained some experience by this time, of course, and could keep tempo. And then that was in 2010 or 11. That was no, that had to be, that was 20, 2012, and then I did another one in 2014, and then I did another one in 2020. And then I've written 22 songs since then, but nobody plays CDs, right? And they're expensive to make. And it was, at the time, $10,000, $12,000. And third one would have been a lot more, but a guy named Jim Now he had a sister that was probably your year. NAU. I know he had an older sister.
who was that
Maybe
now?
an older brother. Maybe an older brother. Anyway, he produced and did lead guitar, and I did all the rhythm and picking and stuff on acoustic, and then he also did the drums, and we did it in the studio in Ramona, and he did a great job. And that was in 2020. I did my last one. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been a ride. So yeah, I just started writing music, and I just love it. It's just so much so cool to to see something come on a post-it. You write something on a post-it in a car, and then it evolves into something you type out, and then work out, and then play live. But the real rewarding thing is when you go into the studio and you get I get my vocals down and I get my playing down, which is you got to be on your game. You can't make a mistake. And you got three microphones on you, and then I get the guitar thing out, and I do a lot of picking, so there's like a gazillion opportunities to make mistakes. So I would do that, and then the neat thing is when you send those tracks and to the keyboard player and the bass player, and you bring the bass player in, and and these guys are all traveling, touring session musicians, okay? Because the guy I recorded it, the first two CDs with has all the contacts. I mean, they know Joe Bonamassa and all this stuff. So these guys on my CDs are really flipping good, and mask all my lack of talent.
Wow. I gotta look it up. I'll find you on YouTube and get a window into your soul, Bruce, with all your lyrics and your music. I mean, that's just a great way to get to know somebody. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, well, good, thanks.
I wanted to back up. You said you had a car accident. Sounded like that gave you a cause to adapt. What happened?
Yeah, it forced me to that. Well, I had got into the big leagues very quickly with the A's and signing in late '75 and got the big leagues in '78 and did too well. And the Yankees they bought me. And Charlie Finley was the owner of the A's at the time, and he was dumping all his players because he was a cheapskate and wanted to, sell By the Blue and sell Reggie Jackson and do all that. So anyway, he sold me to Steinbrenner, who wanted a left-handed hitting catcher to play in Yankee Stadium and to put Thurman Munson, their Hall of Fame level catcher, at first base because he was getting older and his arm was wearing out and he was anybody could hit. So they bought me, and then I got I was up and down that first year in '79, and he died. Thurman Munson crashed his plane and died late '79, and then in '80 I got in a car accident with the guy who went on to be a big star in the big leagues and pitching coach for the Giants for 35 years, Dave Rigetti, pitching no hitter in the big leagues. He and I were coming back from a road trip in my van, and were stopped in a left-hand turn pocket, and a guy on drugs and drunk and Robert Wolfenberger, I'll never forget his name. He rear-ended our car, and my seat bent back, and my shoulder ended up being messed up, but I missed 2 years right at the height when I was 24 and 5, 20, 25. And in my 26, so in 1981, my first year of being on the disabled list, I had a starting job in New York, the Yankees. I couldn't play. So anyway, missed 2 years, came back. Yankees ended up releasing me. I signed with the Pittsburgh and played in Hawaii, great assignment, for a season. And then trying to get back to the big leagues, but I couldn't play every day. My shoulder, I was still good enough to play in the big leagues, but I wasn't good enough to play every day. I could play like 3 days and then my arm would just start killing. So I could be a reserve catcher, but I hadn't built up enough salary in the big leagues to make it. I mean, I remember guys are making 20, 30 million. The minimum salary when I played was $40,000. And I was a first round pick and signed for $28,000. I was the 21st pick in the country. And now that pick gets $3 million.
Mhm.
And guys, Reggie Jackson was making, like $750,000, right? So it was crazy. There was no money. So I hadn't built up any salary level. And so by the time I was 30, I went down that last year. I signed with the A's again, and it looked like I might have a chance to get big leagues with them. But then they signed a bunch of guys that couldn't play a position. They were older: Jeff Burrows, Davey Lopes, Dave Kingman, and they couldn't take three catchers. So by the time a catcher got hurt, I was in AAA. They were 20 some games out of first, and they brought up this guy who eventually became, he was a very good player. They brought him up from double A, which was the smart thing to do. I was 30, he was, 24. And so anyway, I ended up they asked me if I wanted to go coach that year. And so I coached half the season down in Modesto in A-ball, where I'd started my first 3 weeks of pro ball, and coached these two young kids named Canseco and McGuire. Of course, the
Oh,
steroids.
those kids.
Those were my kids that I was working with. And it was so funny because Canseco was 6'3", 190, and kept saying, "I got to get bigger. I got to get stronger. I got to know, Jose, you got to stop pointing the barrel of your bat at the pitcher when your front foot lands because you're never going to hit." But he had talent, obviously, and but he was 6'3", 190. And Mark McGuire came off the Olympic team in '84, and he was a good player. He was played at USC and from a good family. Dad was a dentist. I mean, he was a quality kid. But he was 6'5", 200, But by the time we won the Cal League in September, the California League in September of that year, this is Class A ball, right? There's rookie ball, A ball, double A, triple A, and big league. So we're down the lower end of the spectrum. By the time mid-September to spring training, both those guys were gained a little weight. They both got up to over 250 pounds. So that's when they started injecting the steroids in their butt. It was right then. They went from little skinny guys and they became monsters. I remember my son was only 11 months old then, and my son played 8 years of pro ball. This kid. So we went to Anaheim Stadium a few years later when Scotty was probably 6, and he was dressed in his uniform. We went on the field for batting practice, and he had pictures. We still have pictures of he and Jose and he and Mark together. And oh my God, their forearms are like my thighs. I mean, they were just
Mhm.
so huge, and the way they hit the ball, it was like a golf ball. They were so strong anyway. But then throw in steroids, and it adds another 10-12% to the speed of the ball off the bat and the distance and all that.
I've heard that steroids actually help your vision as well.
Yeah, yeah. I would have taken them. I mean, they say everybody, it wasn't illegal. And Canseco, as dumb as um, he was probably understating this when he said 80% of the players in baseball are taking steroids. You had to. If you didn't, you were working at you know Ross Shoes or something, Ross or whatever at Safeway. So you had to stay competitive.
What do you think the percentage is now that people that are juicing in the big leagues? They've got
Yeah,
that down to
it's
zero?
interesting because they do test. They test quite a bit. They seem to catch more minor leaguers than major leaguers, maybe because there's less at stake, you know,
No.
there. But the thing is, they tell them what they're going to test for. So the drug designers are, probably one step ahead of the game all the time. So it's this crazy thing. The owners really want them to juice up because it makes it really fun. The balls are flying out and all that. So I'm probably not that high. Probably not. It's probably pretty clean, I would guess now.
Have you got a team? Who do you root for?
I don't really even follow it. Um,
Oh.
I once probably 3 or 4 times a year, I'll check to see who's in first place, maybe.
So
Uh,
you're like an
I
actor.
had some players that I coached youth ball that were playing in the big leagues, and I'd follow them. Mike Leake, I coached, and Cole Hamels played with my son at Rancho Bernardo, and Hank Blaylock, I coached, and I had I coached the team. My younger son, who played just in a junior college, Tommy, who's a sheriff's deputy here, and he graduated from college in San Diego. He came up here. He's been a sheriff's deputy, SWAT team, and sniper for 15 years here in Twin. So, but he played. But on his 10-year-old team, there were 4 first-round picks.
Wow.
So we were good. These youth teams were good. We won World Series and to Scott's team, and they all went on to play in college. I mean, we were really good. And travel ball is so diluted now. We were one of 3 travel teams in San Diego, and we would go to LA every weekend to play the kids in the ghetto that were really good. And so that's where we got. If you could get out of California, you could win the nationals or whatever. So yeah, no, we played a big league game. We were stealing signs. We were, throwing through first and third, and just we were very sophisticated. We played it, and other guy I was coaching with, his son played in the big leagues, and his brother was a coach at Rancho Bernardo High School, where a lot of these kids would move in. Like my son, we moved over my senior year. We left Carmel Valley and moved over to Rancho Bernardo, and for his senior year, and yeah, there were four kids grad. There were one. Cole Hamels was 17th pick in the country. Who else was there? I mean, yeah. I mean, we had. I mean, kids were getting drafted right and left. That's a good pro. He still is today. The kid that Scotty played with, my son, he's now the head coach there, and that's the Blaylock's nephew. Is the guy I coached with son, Jake Blaylock. So anyway, he's now the coach. He's won CIF a couple times there, just in the span of 3 or 4 years.
Well, Bruce, this has been really enjoyable to hear about all the baseball and the music. You've really helped me do what I wanted to do with this show, and that is get connected, make those memories more real, bring them back, freshen them up, and fill in some gaps. And you've been,
All you old guys from 1970, right?
yeah, well, we look at you as the
Ernest Daly
youngsters,
and Steve
and
Higgins and
you're young. It's not your fault. You can
yeah,
settle down, get married,
yeah.
whatever.
And your
All right.
child.
Well, Bruce, it's been great. Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear your music. And till next time, thank you.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you. Okay. Bye, Ken.
Bye bye.
Maybe.